Those air exchanges are going to make the professional development area, the storage room, and the bathroom and adjacent little tag room
We know that.
very nice. By opening and closing the doors, we think that's going to help the hallway as well. With that said, I did say early on that we do have clients now that are looking to put some air conditioning in the hallways to help with dehumidification because of the climate in this state that is getting worse and moisture is getting worse. So I don't think it's a bad idea, and that's why we said we'll help in any way possible, but we don't think it's a bad idea to do it. But again, if you're asking me my professional opinion, I would say let's start with the other project first, see what that does, maybe replace the cabinet heaters, because again, my recollection when we stood before you was that we are under budget now, so that's perhaps what freed up some additional monies, but when we were talking about the budget, we were looking at it to provide that which was needed to maintain a cost-efficient project.
Okay. So then, and then I'll move on, but so, and I thank you for that because you do this all the time. So you're telling us that there's no need to get the heat and that you would go forward with repairing or making sure we have good cabinet heaters and not worrying about air or heat, correct?
Just to reiterate, my recommendation would be, let's start with the work we're already doing, and then if we still encounter an issue in the hallway, that's something you can always do. It's not necessarily going to cost you any more or any less. It might be a little bit more because the contractor has to remobilize, but whether it's this contractor or the existing contractor, he still has to take the ceiling down, he still has to put the ceiling up, he still has to order the equipment, he still has to install the equipment. So the realities are that other than maybe some mobilization costs for a new contractor to come out, I mean, he's on site. So one might argue that he's getting you a good price, the other might argue that he's not giving you the greatest price because he's already here and he knows that if you're going to accept his number, it's his number. So again,
and that was my next.
There are pros and cons. There's no right answer necessarily.
And that was my next question. If we just moved forward without doing anything with the HVAC and then went back and did it later, would it be much more expensive?
If you're doing the exact same scope, it might be a little more expensive for the reasons I just stated, that a contractor has to remobilize. But the equipment's the equipment, the installation, the ceiling has to be replaced because if you're putting in ductwork, they have to relocate that.
Well, we wouldn't have to replace the ceiling if we did it prior to putting in the new ceiling, if that was part of the, 13.5, right?
But the number he's giving you for the ceiling would be the number you'd get from the second guy. So what I wouldn't recommend, to your point, and that's a very good point, I wouldn't recommend spending $13,000 on a new ceiling and then putting in an air conditioning because the ceiling would remain. They'd have to disassemble it and put it back up. There's no question that there is a cost savings if the contractor who's going to do the ceiling rips it down, puts the equipment in first, and then reinstalls a new ceiling. That there's no question. You wouldn't want to put the new ceiling in only to have it removed and reinstalled by someone later. That is 100%.
What happens if we do the flooring and we don't do the ceiling?
People work in finished spaces all the time. The new contractor will be responsible for protecting the floor.
Okay.
And if he damages it, he'll have to replace it.
Mr. Griffin?
Thank you.
Part of me at this point feels like this is either a committee issue or a staff issue. And I appreciate the board caring about this and asking these levels of questions. And I appreciate your willingness to answer all these questions in this format. It feels to me like there's still a scope that needs to be better defined at what we are at this point. My recommendation would be send it back either to the committee or staff. One question I would ask before I close is on all these changes, how many, without who it is, it doesn't matter to me, but how many staff members have been assigned as project managers on this that you've worked with?
Just for clarity, my project managers?
No, for our school. Have you worked with the same person the whole time?
Yeah, David.
On the school staff?
Oh, well.
You don't have to name the names. It doesn't matter to me. But have you had one staff contact or multiple main contacts?
It was you, John.
It wasn't me.
We've interacted with multiple people because we interacted with your prior BA who left. We interacted with the good doctor. We interacted with the committee at one point. So there have been.
I wasn't necessarily trying to do anything more than saying, it sounds to me like there are lots of people that have been involved in this. There's difference of opinions of scope. I think it should go back to that and figure out some of this, and I appreciate your time.
That's certainly fair.
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's say the hallway was included in the original proposal. What additional work would it have been if you knew we wanted heating and air conditioning? Like, what would the whole way have entailed for you? Because there's really no architectural work involved in flooring and painting and even a drop ceiling. So it would have been the doors, maybe,
Well,
and the HVAC and
Yes, so-
ductwork, right?
So the answer is that, I'm not sure that I completely understand. I think I understand your question, but there's a subtle piece in there that I might not be understanding. As designers, the analogy I can give you is we are the quarterbacks of the team. And when we take the engineer who's going to design the system, we have to coordinate the light fixture locations with his ductwork. We have to coordinate the ceiling heights with his drawings. We have to lay out the grid because the grid could be laid out left justified, center, right justified. All those things have an impact on where the lights fall, on where the registers fall. We have to give, the contractors don't just say to you, here's a price. Every contractor requires he be given, or she be given, a clearly defined scope. There are 3,000 paint colors. There are paints that have no odor when you install them. So we would have to spend some time picking out the kind of paint that would go in there, just like we would probably spend time picking out the kind of ceiling, because there are hundreds of ceilings in there. So I wouldn't want to be criticized that when the ceiling went up, that we didn't consult the board on what kind of ceiling tile, because there are 3,000 ceiling tiles. There's drop ceiling tiles, there's recessed ceiling tiles. So my point is that there is a lot of coordination, if that's your question. It's not just that we tell the contractor they want the walls painted. They're going to say, what am I doing to prep it? What am I doing to prime it? What color do they want? What kind of paint do you want? So there are things that go into it that we as professionals are involved with because of codes, because of odors. We would not get a call from the principal that, hey, they just painted, I have to, get all the kids out from the floor above because the smell is horrific. I'm sure you've all had that new car smell or the new paint smell. Well, the contractor's not on his own going to go and find a low odor paint to select because it's a school. He's going to find the least expensive paint he can. He's going to come in and paint it and only get yelled at later that all of a sudden the hallway smells and kids are feeling sick upstairs or staff is calling in sick. We've been through this for 30 years, so trust me when I tell you, these are the kinds of things that we've learned that we would want to address on your behalf. If you just want to go and paint it, you're right. You don't need our involvement. Someone from the administrative team can tell the contractor to paint it. He'd give you a number, we'd process the paperwork, and probably wouldn't charge you anything to do that.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, was the $15,000 your fee for the
No, no,
flooring?
no.
It was for the actual physical flooring?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we were told before we went out to bid, we'd like flooring included in the bid. At no cost to you, we modified our drawings, we added them in as an alternate, we modified the specification so that it would include on the bid sheet to recover that. So the $15,000 that was awarded was the contractor's bid. We didn't charge you a penny more for that request that came before we went out to bid.
Okay, thank you.
One last question with the
ma'am.
cabinet heaters. So you said they're still in use today? in many-
They exist today. I don't know if they're still in use, but they exist today.
Are you talking about our building or other buildings?
Your buildings. the
Okay, I'm
cabinet-
talking, I thought you said though in general they are still used today
Oh,
in
I'm sorry, yes,
buildings?
absolutely. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Are
Yes,
people putting them in new today? or-
Absolutely,
So they put them in new?
absolutely.
So when you were thinking of putting in the cassette system, whatever that might be, you took into consideration, I guess, mentioned the cabinet heaters. But only one of those is working, you said.
I don't know which is or isn't working. We were given very clear direction. It wasn't, we weren't being asked for an opinion, we weren't being asked for guidance, we were given very clear direction. And so we presumed that's the direction that we were being asked to
So
take.
what was the clear direction you were given?
Please add air conditioning to the hallway.
And you were told air conditioning, not HVAC?
My understanding is we were originally told air conditioning, and later we were asked, oh, maybe it should be heating as well. Is that generally accurate?
Okay.
I'm sitting right here.
Any other questions?
No.
I have a question. Okay, it doesn't have to do with this, but I took a walk through, and so the spaces that are getting finished have these nice tall ceilings, and I did have a chance to talk to the contractor for a couple of minutes. So in the tag room, the ceiling's like 9.6, 9.7, then we go next door, and he's got these things, and ceiling's gonna come down to 8 feet, and then it goes back up to 9.6, 9.7. He was trying to explain to, like, there's more stuff in the ceiling, I get it. Could you maybe explain it in a way that I did not understand? Like,
Sure.
Like, you have the same sprinklers, ductwork, light fixtures in all of the ceilings. Why the drop in the middle room and then back up again?
So the code requirement is for educational spaces to have a 9-foot 6-inch clear floor to ceiling.
Okay,
So the spaces that are occupied by the students and the staff have a 9-foot 6-inch ceiling.
yes.
Other spaces like hallways, which I believe is the area you're alluding to, that little transition hallway between the spaces,
It's not a hallway. It's going to be an office. Center office, right behind the tag, like,
the one on the other side of the storage room,
no, right after the tag room.
well, the one next to the tag room is the storage. Yes. So the one next to the tag room is a storage
Is
room.
it storage? It's
And-
an office.
Yeah, and
Yes.
the reason that the ceiling is lower there is because, and you may have seen it, we have two large pieces, is that the room with the two pieces of equipment in it? So maybe I'm not talking about the same room.
It's adjacent to that.
It's the one on the other side of it.
It's the office.
It's the one with the window, though. It has the window, and then the ceiling
The storage room has
comes
two windows
down.
too.
No,
So
it's,
is the office have an 8-foot
He's-
ceiling or
the
9-foot 6?
contractor said it would be an office. Right, it'll be an office. Which all of a sudden now feels claustrophobic when you realize that this ceiling's
Is it an
gonna
8 or a
drop.
9-foot 6 ceiling?
It's 8 foot. It goes 9.6 to 8 feet back.
8 foot, but while we were talking as the project was getting underway, one of the contractor's questions was that the ceiling needed to be higher due to the existing soffit by the window. So an 8-foot ceiling would be below that soffit. So to not have to do anything to the soffit, we raised the ceiling to 9 foot 6.
So
Not in the room that I saw.
the simple answer to your question is classrooms require 9-foot 6.
Right,
Offices, hallways, things like that require 8 foot.
right.
Typically, you drop the ceiling down to accommodate ductwork and pieces of equipment like in the one room. In
Right.
the case of the office, it was purely simple of following a standard that we follow. If there's room to move it up, which apparently there is, the ceiling can be raised up a little bit, but typically we were following standards that are in the profession, in the educational requirements. There's no real other answer to it.
Madam President, we spent over an hour on this particular topic. And to be honest with you, for myself, I don't feel terribly confident that I could respond to all of the questions that were asked. We have a committee, and obviously we have a builder or an architectural firm. I would suggest, we spent over an hour, and I don't know that we concluded anything that's going to help the situation. So why don't we send it back to the committee with all of the input that has been developed here, and come back with some answers?
That's what we're going to do, but I'm going to let Greg have the last
Oh, can I have one?
answer.
Can I say one thing before? Thank you. My concern, and I appreciate what you're saying, I feel as though before or when we send it back to committee, there definitely was some sort of breakdown in communication wherever it was, and that I think that, I don't know what standard practice is, unfortunately, but someone should be the lead and the person, and that maybe when detailing the scope and whatever it is, everything should be as a legal document in writing so that there is no, nothing like that moving on. Not placing the blame or on any particular party or anything like that at this point, because we don't know enough, but just making sure we learn as a board of our mistakes moving forward.
So just to clarify, there was no question on the scope. Everyone was clear the scope did not include the hallway. We all know that. And then we asked to move on to the hallway. So there was no question on the scope.
Well, it seems to me in terms of, like, even on that separate hallway project and what the scope is, that there was something asked of you guys in June that evidently was not, it took until now to get, but maybe wasn't communicated. There definitely is some sort of breakdown, and so moving forward, we should have our requests and everything in writing, and so that way there is no misinformation or miscommunication.
Just to be clear, the reason why this is here in front of the board is we're looking to spend $9,600 in additional architectural fees. these additional funds are being spent outside the original scope of this project. So I didn't think it was appropriate, as the chair of the Building and Ground Subcommittee, to take this separate direction to commit the school to spend $9,600 at a subcommittee level. I wanted to bring it to the entire board. And I want you to think about this, because this is the first of more money that we're going to be spending. I don't want to hear, well, we agreed to $9,600, but then we don't have the appetite to do the actual work. So this is the reason why it's in front of the board. If you think that it's important to finish the hallway, then we have to approve the $9,600 for architectural fees, and then we will have a budget for you sometime later on. We'll handle that during the subcommittee, and we'll probably give you a proposal like we did last time, with multiple choices, with multiple price tags. But at this point in time, this is a fork in the road, and this fork cost us $9,600 if we want to go in this direction. So that's why it's in front of the board. Now, in terms of miscommunication, I have in writing communication from day one, going back to June. Before June, we were not really involved in the specifics at the subcommittee level, so we can go around and around and around and say that we didn't quite understand, but HVAC was specified from the beginning, starting when we discussed adding on the hall to the existing project. And I have it in writing, and I have multiple emails. So if you want, I'll forward them to you. And I also have minutes, and there's mention of them in the minutes. But that's not what we're trying to achieve here. We're not pointing fingers. We're just making sure that we understand, where we're heading. Okay?
So thank you very much for coming. We appreciate all
Thank
your
you.
time, and we appreciate the details.
My pleasure.
And I thank the committee, too. I know it's been insurmountable number of hours that the committee members have worked, and hands-on, downstairs, looking, going through. So whether it's miscommunication or not, I think the intention here is so wonderful on the part of the committee, and I appreciate having it being brought before the entire board. When you're talking about a large sum of money, it's good. I've learned something more about the project since it isn't my committee. So, but again, I think, thank you, Greg, Nancy, and who was the
Mr.
other?
Walsh.
And Mr. Walsh for all your efforts so far. And we'll get it ironed out, and we'll get it done right. So thank you, and good luck getting it back in your lap.
There is one other aspect to this project, which we did discuss with Jonette, which maybe you want to just explain to the board, not in big detail, but like, when you go a certain amount over a project, we can't just do it. There's either county approval, or we have to wait till next year. So there are two aspects to this, whether we decide to do it now, next year. You want to just, nothing crazy, but just quick.
Yes, when you go out to bid, you can't just add to a project, it has to be within a percentage, which I believe is 20%. So based on some of the numbers he said today, I think you're within the 20%.
So that'd be
But it's-
76,000?
But the other piece of that is what was budgeted and sent to the county with your original budget. And if it goes over that, you might have to go to the county for permission to move. Let's say you're going to need to move money from one account to another, you might have to get county approval for that.
I want to vote. All right.
Thank you.
Why don't we table it until we get a budget?
So the one thing I want to just say about this motion, B1, it really needs to be under finance, even though it's buildings and grounds, we're approving more money. So I would like to, before we even get into this, I would like to move B1 to D12.
D like dog 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Just to clarify, then we will change B2 to B1.
Yes, and we'll change B2 to B1. Okay.
Excuse me. Will we have further discussion about it about that once we do the motion? Okay, thank you.
Yep. Let's move to the superintendent's report for now.
Thank you. I have a few things I wanted to let the board know. First, since this is our very first meeting of the new school year, I wanted to let you know that throughout the summer, our custodians worked extremely hard on getting the building ready. Not only did they have all the usual cleaning, but they also had a significant number of classrooms to switch around this year. And so I just want to commend the work that they did to provide our students with a really clean, well put together building that we could welcome them into. At the same time, as they were working, our technology person, Rami, was working throughout the summer on a number of projects. So that included imaging new Chromebooks and setting up new classroom carts for 5th grade, installing new smart boards for 1st and 2nd grades, re-imaging of teacher laptops with the latest Mac operating system, and also installing new copiers. And then, as we've already said, there has been a renovation project going on in the basement, and the long-term goal of getting that completed is giving us more small group instructional space, which is very sorely needed. This past week, we also were able to do the first of 2 back-to-school nights. So last night, we had lots of parents in the building, and I heard many, many positive comments and a lot of really positive feedback from parents about their excitement about starting this new school year. Another thing that we worked on over the summer was that we invited the head of the New Jersey State Department of Education's Office of School Safety, who came with a representative from the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office in order to do a safety audit for us. And he gave us a very good list of suggestions for ways that we can enhance our building and practices. So we've been working on working through that list. There have been a lot of changes that our principal mentioned in her presentation at Back to School night last night, including a brand new schedule, which teachers are learning how to implement. We have our new social and emotional learning program, Open Circle, which teachers are also very enthusiastic about. We are implementing the new required recess for students. So, all in all, there is quite a lot going on. Teachers are working very hard to make all these things go smoothly, and they're doing a great job. So, in addition to our support staff, I'd also like to commend our administrators on the work that they did getting the building ready and opening it as well as they did. And I'd also like to commend our teachers for managing so much change so gracefully and so well. And of course, thanks to our students for your enthusiasm. So with that, the last thing that I wanted to mention is simply to let you know that I'm going to continue to invite parents to the Coffee with the Superintendent that I started last year. So I've scheduled 2 of those for the fall. I'm going to be hosting one for parents on October 2nd at 5 o'clock and another one on Friday, October 4th at 8:45. So I just wanted the board to know that. Sorry? In the morning? Yes, sorry.
And I saw them because I was trolling the website, but I'm sure you'll send out in a separate blast, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So that concludes my report for today.
May I ask Dr. Ansel one quick question? Is that safety audit something that, as a board member, we'd be able to look at, or is that not?
Yes, it was a voluntary process, and he simply gave us a number of suggestions, so sure. I don't think there was anything that I couldn't share with you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Business Administrator's report.
I just wanted to note that John Mamora has been in the office a few times already, and we've been working together. He's reviewed the applications that we had for the administrative assistant position and conducted some interviews. And he's also met with the administration. And then also today, I heard from our broker. Nesbitt had a meeting yesterday and notified us that they'll be providing cyber training at no cost to the district for anyone who has a district email. And what that will key in on is helping people to recognize emails that might be suspicious, and that if you open them, they could cause harm to our infrastructure. So that's all I have.
Thank you. We'll move to minutes, review of July 31st and August 7th. Any questions or comments, please email our business administrator. Approval of minutes for July 10th. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the July 10th minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Who was that?
Me.
Oh, Catherine. Second by Catherine. Any questions?